I and many other people are deeply concerned with the recent events in Honduras, and we've called today's hearing to focus our attention on the crisis.
President Zelaya has more than his share of blame for provoking the crisis to begin with by defying the Supreme Court and the Congress, and all the legal procedures may have been followed before his ouster. But the forced removal from Honduras was a clear violation of the Constitution and basic democratic norms. Having rightly condemned what happened, the main task was to calm the tensions and try to work out a solution. I'm not sure that opting for a more punishing stance so quickly, to issue an ultimatum for the return of President Zelaya and suspending Honduras from the OAS was the wisest course.
In some ways, they treated Honduras as the worst offender against democracy ever. I don't recall any other country, the response being this sort of quick, immediate, and so harsh as we're now seeing with Honduras.
The OAS, the Secretary General, positioned itself very much on the, with Zelaya, and that was true in what he said and what he did and everything, and issued very strong. And that is, that maybe that will work, and maybe that will force both sides to sort of make the agreement that will eventually resolve this crisis. But the other view was to say that that the OAS could take a strong position, but then it should really give a little bit more time to sort of diplomatically and try to work things out, to not put the Honduran de facto government up against the wall the way it did. And that some people say the effect was that that both sides dig in, so it makes a political compromise that much more difficult.
For me, I think the question that I'd like to concentrate on is where do we go from here?
Today, this crisis has moved to the phase of negotiation under President Arias. This is an encouraging sign, but caution is in order. The first day showed this is going to be difficult and may take some time to work out. There's tremendous bitterness and distrust between the two parties. Still, one can imagine elements of a formula that will hopefully be agreed to. It is crucial that conditions in Honduras permit fair and credible elections that are now scheduled for the end of November.
Sonia, go ahead.
How do you see the possibility to call to early elections to a way to find the solution to the Honduras problem?
Increasingly, this is one of the things that may be a sort of compromise solution. In other words, that somehow you really sort of focus hard on the elections. Perhaps you advance them September, October. It doesn't have to be long, but you create the image that really the focus is on the elections and creating a new government with credibility and legitimacy. Of course, how that election takes place and what kind of campaigning and how free the media are will all determine that. And if things deteriorate further, that becomes all the more difficult, and the legitimizing effect of an election may be also undercut.
The Honduras crisis has posed two difficult challenges for the United States. The first concerns how to deal with the interruption of the democratic process in the region, balancing legality and legitimacy against maintaining social peace and governability on the ground in Honduras. The second challenge involves finding an effective multilateral approach that engages with Latin American partners while also being active in helping to shape a favorable outcome.
What's going to happen? How do you think that it's going to develop, this situation in Honduras? What we can expect on that? Because the military looks like they are not going to move, and Zelaya looks like he wants to be there. So, like, if you see in a perspective, what's going to happen there?
Well, I think that you have to look this in long period, more than 1 week. And then that means that in the first week, we will have everybody running in favor of principle. Zelaya is not a clean man in democratic terms, but the coup d'etat is completely unacceptable. Well, this is the first week. By the end of the first week, we are coming to a kind of stalemate. Mr. Zelaya have an overwhelming international support, but he is unable to be restoring power. And the President, Micheletti, can stay as governor, but he cannot govern. And in this moment, you will have a change in which other countries will play a more active role. In the international life, immediate success is not so often happen, and this will take and finally, I will say that we have a main problem here in a lot of things. First, I think that the democratic chart has proved that was built in a mistake, because the democratic chart give protection to the governments, but don't give protection to the oppositions to the government.
What this crisis has done is to bring into sharp focus the question of double standards and hypocrisy applied to different situations in Latin America. It's not that the OAS shouldn't have reacted to this situation, but it should have reacted to others. The OAS has indeed been too passive and silent in dealing with ruptures in the democratic order in other situations. There needs to be a way to focus on improving the Inter-American Democratic Charter and the way it is applied and implemented in Latin America. One idea is to not restrict the use of the Charter to the executive branch, but also extend it to other branches of government and to the opposition. This could have worked in the Honduras case to head off the eventual coup. Unfortunately, power grabs and defiance of democratic norms and institutions are too common in Latin America, so the Charter and member OAS governments need to take that disturbing tendency into account. Finally, it would be surprising if the United States did not have to deal with similar situations in Latin America in the future. The region is unsettled, at least several parts of the region. And I hope this case shows the wisdom of working in concert with regional partners to seek solutions that reflect common sense and pragmatism, but are anchored in the rule of law.